Developing right now, a bombshell ruling in the Freddie Gray case. Maryland's highest court ruling Baltimore police officer William Porter must testify against 5 fellow officers. Now, in December, Officer Porter's trial ended in a hung jury, and now Officer Porter is awaiting retrial. Well, what does this mean for the remaining 5 officers' cases? The on-the-record legal panel is here. Former homicide detective and criminal defense attorney Ted Williams and former prosecutor Katie Fang. Katie, first of all, why is the Court of Appeals saying the prosecution can order this officer when he still is pending trial to testify against these other officers?
Well, Greta, that's a great question. If you look at the order that came out from the appellate court, they don't actually give you an explanation. They basically say to the judge, you got it wrong, and they basically tell Officer Porter, you must testify against your fellow officers in the upcoming 5 trials.
What happened to the Fifth Amendment? What happened to the Fifth Amendment? Isn't it still in the Constitution? It was when I left. Ted, when I left D.C. this morning, we still had a Fifth Amendment. So what happened? I mean, tell me, what happened while I was on that flight?
Oh, my God. A lot of voodoo, Greta, a lot of voodoo, because the Court of Appeals has said is that the Fifth Amendment rights of an accused, Porter, just does not matter in this case. While this is a
How can it not matter? How can it not matter? Did the Court of Appeals say why the Fifth Amendment does not apply to this police officer?
No.
Did they say why?
No. No, they issued a per curiam decision and 2 pages, did not tell us, but you got to understand, Porter still faced federal prosecution in this case. If I was his lawyers, I would try to race to the Supreme Court and try to get a stay on this, because this is going to have far-reaching effects, Greta.
The Supreme Court is going to take this, though.
Shame on the Court of Appeals for not writing a decision and explaining it. Now, my guess is, because I assume that there's still a Fifth Amendment in Maryland as well, as there is in the Constitution, I'm thinking my guess is that there's a procedural reason that it was brought to the court in the wrong way, the wrong time or something. Because, like I said, when I left this morning, the Fifth Amendment still existed, and there's no exception that's not for police officers either.
Well, you wonder if it exists for Porter, but I got to tell you, this is a minefield for the prosecution. They don't know everything that Porter is going to testify about, and that could certainly hurt them down the road. But right now, procedurally, this is a terrible decision as far as I'm concerned.
Katie, what do you make of the fact that the court issues this order but doesn't write a decision explaining why?
You know, it's terribly not enlightening or illuminating. They start at the beginning of the opinion to say, for reasons that we will later put forth in another opinion. Well, guys, don't you think you should put it out now? Because if Porter's going to appeal this to the United States Supreme Court, he's got to make that decision now. And the other thing that's important for everybody to understand is Porter's stuck between a rock and a hard place. If he testifies, he basically testifies against his fellow officers. If he chooses not to testify, he can be held in contempt of court and be jailed. If you're rooting for Officer Porter and the other officers from the Freddie Gray trials, then maybe he doesn't testify, or maybe he does, guys, and he gives incredibly self-serving testimony that helps create reasonable doubt, not only for his future retrial, but for the trials of those other officers.
And let me add just one thing. The arrogance of the Court of Appeals to issue this decision without explaining why. I mean, that to me, that just is, to me is astounding. Shame on that court. Anyway, Ted, Katie, thank you both.